I stress this is entirely a personal opinion, but I think part of the reason why the continuing carnage in Gaza is failing to get anything like the coverage that it received for most of last year is because the media organisations which began this catastrophe, very supportive of Israel's policies, have elected silence over continuing to support what is going on. And it means that those of us who are keen to know what is going on are, given Israel's refusal to let foreign journalists into the territory, even more hidebound than usual. It's one of the reasons why I'm delighted to invite Dr. Victoria Rose into the studio. Victoria is a consultant plastic surgeon ordinarily working out of Guy's and St Thomas's and Chelsea and Westminster hospitals here in London, but also a frequent visitor in your professional capacity to Gaza. Twice, I think, before the October the 7th atrocity and twice afterwards. At risk of crassness, what was the difference between the before and the after?
A huge difference. Before, we were able to enter Gaza through Israel, so we would fly to Tel Aviv. We would have the backing of the British consulate. We would travel through the Erez crossing. We were allowed to take any equipment with us that we wanted, and we had planned missions to dedicated hospitals that would be prepared for our arrival. So we would have a caseload to do, mainly cases that we'd sort of discussed before, and you'd go in for the week and know exactly what was going on, where you were going, where you were staying, and what was happening. And then following October the 7th, we have been at the mercy of basically the WHO and the IDF as to where we can travel, which hospitals are still functioning, where we can work. There's limitation on kit that we can take in, and the restrictions are just getting more and more out of hand, making it harder and harder to achieve any sort of meaningful impact.
Do you understand why some of these restrictions are in place, or
no,
any of these restrictions?
Not really, no. It's not an area that hasn't worked closely with big NGOs and the United Nations and the WHO before. So no, I am struggling to understand some of the restrictions that are placed on us.
What sort of, and presumably the nature of the work that you do when you get there is incredibly different as well now.
Mainly now it's all blast and bomb injuries. So I'm mainly seeing people that have been involved in a bombing, and when the bomb explodes, part of or whatever they're in, wherever they are, masonry, car, whatever, it's whipped up in the explosion, and then it's ejected at a very high force, and it will hit a civilian, penetrate the skin, break the underlying bone, enter the brain, the lung, the abdomen, wherever it hits. And those are the bulk of the injuries that I deal with. Then we have burn injuries from the heats of the explosion, and then we have a whole host of injuries from civilians running away because the area is so overpopulated and they're living in tents. There's no proper facilities for cooking, so children running into vats of boiling oil or boiling water, running into the road, being hit by a donkey cart, those sorts of injuries are very common.
You mentioned children. I think Oxfam's analysis shows more children killed in Gaza by the Israeli military last year than in the equivalent period in any conflict in the world over the past 18 years. Do they make up the bulk of your patients? Is there such a thing as a typical patient?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done an operating list since the war that didn't have at least 50% children on it. 50% of Gaza's population are children. So there is no way that they were going to do well in this blanket bombing of the country.
And are you saving lives, or are you just mitigating disability?
I think we are mainly saving lives. The patients that we can get in a timely fashion, we are saving their imminent life. But whether that goes on is very difficult to know. At the moment, the situation is so dire in terms of malnutrition. 600,000 children are malnourished. And that's not just that they're not getting their 5 a day, that's that they are in a position where they should be admitted to a hospital and treated for malnutrition. On top of that, you've got problems with shelter. None of the trucks are getting in. I think something like 52 trucks were planned to go into the north from the 1st to the 29th of December, and 48 of them were denied. Since the 1st of December to the 29th of December, of 461 aid trucks that were supposed to go in, only 35% got in. So that's only 159. I mean, that's shocking. And that's not just food. That's shelter, that's wash, that's your sanitation facilities, water facilities, and your medical aid. It's absolutely dire.
Why do you do this, Victoria?
I work for a charity called Ideals, which stands for International Disaster, Emergency Aid and Long-Term Support, and it's championed by 2 of my colleagues at King's College Hospital who are orthopaedic surgeons. They set up a project in 2013 to try and help train some Gazan surgeons in dealing with lower limb injuries, and that was their main project at the time, and they were going out sort of on a regular basis every other month. In Gaza, the medical training is quite difficult. If you look to the West, when I specialised as a plastic surgeon, I spent a lot of my time abroad training. So I was in Taiwan for a year, I've been to America to train, I've been to Sweden to train. But with the restriction on movement in Gaza, none of the doctors are allowed to even leave to attend medical conferences, so their training is quite limited. So the idea of the Lower Limb Project was to go to Gaza to help train the orthopaedic and plastic surgeons on how to use specialised equipment and how to deal with the injuries, and that's how we started. So we built up a body of colleagues that we know very well, and obviously when the war started, they were in touch with us, and the pictures that they were sending us were very different to the injuries we were dealing with before.
I know you're planning to go back. We may talk about that shortly, but I'm interested in the failure of aid to get through, or the obstruction of aid, the refusal of Israel to let aid get through. How does that impact upon the work that your colleagues are doing there? I suppose I'm wondering about what being malnourished might do to a patient in need of the kind of operations that you and your colleagues would undertake. It can't be an optimal situation if they're unhealthy in other ways, avoidable ways, even as you seek to deal with their injuries.
I mean, now malnutrition makes it difficult on lots of fronts for surgical procedures. Mainly for the children, it puts them at a lower weight, and obviously your weight limit depends on what sort of procedures we can safely undertake on you. And so there's quite a few things that we can't do because the children are so underweight. But more than that, it's about healing post-operatively. And without all the nutrients and vitamins that you need, wounds don't heal. So lots of the skin grafts that we do fail. Lots of the flaps that we're doing don't heal in a timely fashion. So they're open wounds for longer, more likely to get infected, less resources to fight the infections. It's really dire situation.
And you are going back, or you hope to go back?
I hope very much to be going back in February.
Do you know what you'll find when you get there that is different from when you were last there in August?
I don't know yet, but we do have colleagues that will update us. I've had a WhatsApp this morning that told me which dressings or which solutions, skin cleaning solutions, are short of, and whether we could get...
And do you take that in your luggage?
Yes.
Right.
And then I hope that it's not taken off me at the border.
But there's a chance that it could be.
You're told not to take anything like that in your luggage because it will be taken off you.
Medical supplies.
Yes. So when I went in August, I was specifically told that if I took any medical equipment, it would be removed.
By whom?
By the WHO, who have been instructed by the IDF.
Right. I don't know what to say in conclusion. Some of the things that you've said have shaken me, and I thought I was paying attention to what was going on there. How does it change you?
It sort of makes you want to help more because these people are in dire need of help. I think really for me, it makes me want to keep coming out and talking about it and letting people know the sort of situation that the Gazan population are in, irrespective of what's going on in the region politically and what will happen with that piece of land. you have to remember that this is a human rights issue, and that a huge population, 2.2 million people, are in breach of, I think it's Article 3, the right to life, security. And that's what we need to focus on. There must be another way to sort this out than the way that it's being sorted out at the moment.
And finally, I mean, referring to what you are likely to find when you get there, already you're working in situations that would be absolutely inconceivable in this country. I read that you were using coconut soap and some equipment that was over 30 years old.
We were using vinegar to wash some wounds in because we didn't have any specific antiseptic dressings.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
And how can people find out more about the charity that you've worked with?
We're online. Our website is ideals.org.
Dr. Victoria Rose, many thanks indeed, consultant plastic surgeon. I mean, by day you deal mostly in reconstructive surgery after mastectomies. But I don't want to say by night, but you understand the figure of speech. You do incredible work. Thank you so much. An awful lot of admiration and love coming in for you via my inbox as well, Dr. Rose.